Time to get ready for an Undead versus Orc, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, we are in the semifinals. Endgame Gear Masters Qualifier number 3, the final qualifier. And we have, to the top right of Amazonia, EnTe. He wants to get a few more points to safely qualify himself for the playoffs. And he has a pretty tough opponent in this best of 3 series. All the way down to the bottom left, we have Cash. Cash has actually not participated in the first 2 qualifiers, and as the goal is obviously to gain points for the ranking that will then qualify you for the playoffs, he needs to go pretty far this tournament if he really wants to make sure that he ends up in the playoffs. Actually, the best way for him to ensure that would be to take the entire tournament and win it. And so far, it's actually on a good way. I mean, he made it into the semifinals here already, which is pretty respectable. Now, when we're talking about the playoffs, there's a lot of money on the line. 2,500 euros that the players are fighting for. There's a lot of hardware on the line too. You can win graphics cards and CPUs from AMD and also gear from Endgame. And it's gonna be a pretty sick event. So the important part to note here too is that the offline final is actually gonna take place on the 17th of August. And that will be in Osnabrück in Germany. And, well, not only are players gonna be there, I'm gonna be there too. And on top of that, you can be there as well. Entry is definitely open to the public, so if you want to check that out, you live nearby, then you can head over to endgamegear-masters.com and can have a look at the information there. In the navigation, you'll find a tab offline, and you can get all the info that you need in order to make sure that you can attend the event, stop by, have a bit of a barbecue, enjoy a little bit of WarCraft 3, and just have a cool day in general. Now, in our first game of this series now, we have a Death Knight opening against the Farseer that we see from Cash. And both of the players had a pretty good run so far. EnTe is actually already with 3 points represented in the playoff standings. And thanks to him making it into the semifinal, he is pretty much qualified now for the playoffs. And it should be... I mean, it's honestly a pretty... The lineup today was sick. I mean, seriously, you looked at the lineup and from round 1, we had insane games. It was a little bit crazy at this point. Yeah, that happens, by the way, when you play against an Orc player. So at this point, some people might ask, why exactly is that Death Knight acting so erratic and running around like a bit of a monkey? Pretty much because he expects Blade Master to be there in Windwalk that is trying to steal his experience away and get a bit of a crit through. Now, there has obviously been, or there have been a couple of changes in the last patch which make the Blade Master a little bit more vulnerable to damage. I mean, generally speaking, if you're coming from Heroes of the Storm, for example, the Blade Master got the Zeratul treatment. So now, after you go into Windwalk, you can't just simply jump out of the Windwalk, get a crit through, and then go back into Windwalk. No, you actually have a bit of a time frame there where you are quite vulnerable to your opponent's actions, and that can be abused. Very similar to what we have seen on level 7 for Zeratul in Heroes of the Storm around, obviously, the wormhole. And in this game, it seems like they are going... Oh, that was nearly a setup there. Okay, so Scroll of Speed had to be used now. We're actually seeing a pretty nice opening from EnTe, as he's able to not only take some of those creeps away, but he also nearly got a grunt, forced out the Scroll of Speed, which was definitely important. So yeah, EnTe off to a good start. Has level 2 already for his efforts, and the Farseer is still on level 1, and he just continues the creeping process right now. So with the Orc player down at the bottom of the map, already tacking into the stronghold, I'm gonna find out how much he can pull off with this. But down to the bottom of the map, we're obviously seeing just the attempt to make sure that he gets the level 2 as well. Now, the Circle of Nobility, definitely not a bad item. A bit of a stats boost that the Farseer can definitely use. And also the Cloak of Shadows. If you're playing a Farseer first against an Undead, then the late game is really what scares you the most, probably. Because a Farseer is usually a bit weaker on the hit point pool. And if you go up against high-level Undead heroes, they are going to kick the shit out of you with one Coil Nova after another. So we're probably going to see in the later stages quite a few items being bought by them. Ooh, talking about like attack and aggression. There we actually have a quick kill then, but the experience doesn't even end up with a Farseer. It is still the Death Knight who gets to level 3 now, and he even saves himself the ghouls. Oh, Cash is trying to cash in on those micro skills of his, and wants to body block that Death Knight a little bit more. Nearly got a full surround off there. Didn't quite work out, but it was definitely cool to look at. Nicely done. Both of the players right now. I love this. Micro from both of them, trying to make sure that no unit is able to be taken down by the opponent, that nobody gets a last hit in. We're still having a bit of extra... Well, actually having enough mana for him to nearly kill this one. Not quite. He's getting there, though. There we go. There we have it. So, yep, has the level 2 coil. 200 damage that thing deals, obviously. And is now able to set that up. So, yeah. Well played by him. Gets the last few hits in, takes it down, and will take it from there. So Cash at this point is quite a bit behind. Has found 2 Cloak of Shadows. Not quite what we was hoping for, I assume. With level tier 2 now reached, we have also the Shadow Hunter coming in. And the Beastery is already being played here. I gotta say, though, EnTe start into this best of 3 was a pretty good one for sure. This is a really, really nice setup for him. That, on the other hand, was a very, very nice attempt to take the Death Knight down. And it's not over yet. Yep, is there another chain lighting available? I think he has one. The Skull of Speed! And that's the town portal. Yeah, EnTe, of course, knows exactly what's up here. I mean, first of all, we're having the entire time just one holy coming through after another. And with him just turning the poor Death Knight into a frog, there's just enough orc power there to potentially also get another chain lightning secured here. That thing might only be on level 1 right now, but if you get that last hit in, you don't want to lose a level 3 Death Knight. That's a fantastic item as well. Scourge Bone Chimes for an orc player. I mean, damn son, now we're talking. Yeah, so the Shadow Hunter just hexing away the entire time. But this is a really, really cool setup now for Cash, at least when it comes to items. So that creep was definitely worth it. In experience, still trailing behind a bit. Doing his best there for sure. And obviously now the Lich is also in play, which gives us in this case the +6 claws of attack. In total he's actually sitting at +13, and that is without the Orb of Corruption, simply because of the items that the Death Knight gathered. And a double Circlet of Nobility for the Lich, that isn't bad either. That is actually very solid. But the creep at the top is now continuing, and we have double Wind Rider already for Cash, who's doing fairly well here. Has a level 2 Shadow Hunter right now. And outside of Flying Sheep spotting all of this, the Undead might be a little bit too late. But, well, we're talking about the Rock Golem on level 6, and they're starting to take the fight here. Rod Golem is taken, and there's the quick portal, but one Wind Rider is down. Wind Rider eliminated, got a bit of experience, got also the Potion of Greater Mana, but lost one Wind Rider and lost the portal. Yeah, so Cash is, I mean, again, it's a little bit of a back and forth. When it comes to the RNG gods in the game, they definitely gave him a couple of good items. But then he gets Creep Jack, needs the Town Portal out, loses the Wind Rider, already lost a lot of experience to the Creep Jack of the Death Knight in the early stages of the game. It's tricky. It's a little bit of a tricky setup. But we have the Farseer at least on level 3. And also the Shadow Hunter with the Healing Wave now has hits for level 2. But there is another potential attack. Things are not getting better for him, are they now? Saves the Wind Rider. Does he still have the Scroll of Speed? He has one. But it seems like at least the Grunt is not going to make it here. Can he get some counter hits in? At least kill a ghoul? Not quite. Yeah. Resummons, by the way, the 2 wolves here. So in case that you're a bit newer to the game, you're always trying to deny experience to your opponent by either killing your own units or just maneuvering them away, or just resummoning wolves like we just saw, so that the original pair disappears, because you can only have 2 at a time. So that's exactly what Cash just did. 41 supply against 42 in the main base. The tech into the fortress has now started. Wind Riders are still being built by him. Has a double Beastery right now. And in terms of experience, +18 by the way. Damage output from the Lich now. So not bad. 3-2 heroes on both sides. And still a bit of creeping going on. You kind of want to have the Healing Wave on the next level. I mean, the Shadow Hunter in general is just such an insane hero if you get him to a high level. The Healing Wave and the sustain that you get from that is phenomenal. It's honestly phenomenal. You can just keep everybody alive for such a long time. And then having the Hex to allows you so many plays. You're trying to go for the Lich, for example. Death Knight attempts to get the coil through. You hex him quickly and the Lich dies, or you just go for the DK himself. Wand of Mana Stealing also being used. This one might fall now. And that is just more out of unlucky land here for Cash. Loses another Wind Rider. This, well, oh, that's unfortunate. that one is dead too. And it's time for the Pit Lord. Pit Lord, baby, and the Howl of Terror on level 1. Yep. So we have triple hero now for the Undead against a good Orc army on the ground. The Cleave later on obviously does a lot too. But yeah, with that we're having now 46 supply for EnTe. And we're seeing 46 for Cash. But I still gotta say, EnTe is just looking strong. He has creep checked his opponent now multiple times, has always done well with this. We're having at this point... Okay, it's party time! It's time for some sappers, baby! And let's see how much damage he can do with that. Already the Scroll of Speed being used, tries to move in, tries and break through. And the sappers go down. Didn't do anything. Nothing at all, but good aggression. There's no town portal on the Undead. That's fantastic aggression. Bye-bye Acolytes. Acolytes are falling one after another. Finally, we are seeing the Undead coming in now as well. Doesn't have... Well, actually, no. He has one Fiend with him, so already having the web out. As a level up for the Death Knight as he makes it onto level 4. But the attack on the Golden Mine is still there. Shadowhunter with a TP. The pass over from the Lich, and that saves him here. But oh, he actually saves the Acolyte. Wow. 1 hit points because of the damage over time, but you can't actually kill with the poison. So yeah, EnTe still has 4 Acolytes at this point. Couple of ghouls forgotten down at the bottom of the map. And still, I like a lot of the moves that Cash is making here, but I still gotta say that it's not really looking too pretty for him. That Shadowhunter not being on level 3 right now is a bit of a problem. The Lich is already 3, the Crypt Lord is level 2. This is not looking great for him. This is really not looking great. And Cash needs to win this best of 3 series. He needs to go to the grand final, at least. He at least needs to go to the grand final, if not win it. So if Cash gets annihilated by EnTe in the series, then he is not making it into the playoffs. And he's not out by any means. I mean, again, first of all, this is only map number 1. That's the first thing. Second of all, he hasn't even lost map 1 yet. But it's tough. He's behind in hero levels. His items are not really all that fantastic here. He doesn't have an expansion or any big advantage over his opponent that would be worth noting. And the Wind Riders are going to have a much tougher time now that we are seeing a fair amount of... Well, fair amount. 2 Fiends in the setup here. I mean, again, you already have the Lich, which is great against the air units. Then you have 2 Destroyers. You have the Coil Nova set up on top of that too. And now Fiends with webs. So this army is just generally speaking pretty solid that EnTe has assembled. It's still even supply for the 2 of them. It all comes down to really just the micro in the fights later, and with the Shadowhunter actually starting to get caught here too, that starts to become more of a problem. A little bit of body blocking and 1 Nova to slow him down further, and we might see the end of the second hero for Cash, and that might be the end of this one for him. Yeah, Scroll of Speed gets used, gets immediately dispelled though, and he's still able to move away. Or is he? Farseer is in trouble, gets the heal though, and he's able to move out, at least for now. Farseer all the way in the back, but here comes the attack, and the Howl of Terror. Yep, that's a damage decrease right there. The Hex obviously is coming through too, as we're seeing the Death Knight focused, so he can't coil anything. But we're seeing Cash down to 42 supply against the 38 that EnTe has. EnTe has actually lost a fair amount now too. And we are seeing more and more Fiends being focused, especially as those cooldowns on the webs are going off. So again, more focus on the Lich here. Another quick heal coming in, and that might be the end of the Fiend. And it isn't. Yep, as the coil keeps him in play. But definitely a bit of a better fight there. Actually, the fight wasn't as bad as I was worried about for Cash. But it's not over by any means. And as long as that Shadowhunter doesn't make it into the base, this might still be the end of it. You can't lose that hero right now. And as I say, he goes down. That's a massive problem. At least the Fiend is eliminated. But still... Can those few units in the air really reign supreme here? It's 4 only, and there is the Howl of Terror that is becoming more and more of a problem. The higher level the Pit Lord gets. It's not really on level 3 just yet, but still, we're also having some anti-air, of course, in the form of the Lich, and it's starting to become a problem. Yep, Coil Nova, Potion of Healing still being used. Burrows have to be used now as well, and there's the Scroll of Speed. Another summon, and is he getting out? Yeah, he gets away, or does he? Has no mana on the Death Knight, so he's getting out. The problem is that the Lich might not. Oh, and the Lich falls! EnTe! overstaying his welcome in the base of his opponent. Definitely having a bit of a problem right all of a sudden. EnTe is at this point at 30 supply. He's actually losing ground. He has a shit ton of gold, by the way, and also wood, so he's definitely saving for a rainy day. And we'll be able to spend those resources soon. But it's kind of amazing that that Lich just went down. That nearly put the Farseer on the level 5. That could be the ticket that he needs to get back into this game. Now, the Death Knight himself is obviously now on 75 mana, so he has enough to get a coil through. But we might actually see a bit of a closer call than expected there. EnTe is now starting to produce units. Now, he has a couple of statues set into play. There's more Fiends now coming. But we are starting to reach a critical mass of Wind Riders too. And that could actually work. So EnTe is in a really interesting spot here. Yeah, losing the Lich there was definitely a problem. I mean, he overextended there for sure. He wanted that Farseer, and he nearly got the Farseer. It was honestly the Scroll of Speed that turned it around for Cash. But Cash is back at 50 supply right now. And the big question is just, can he get the Farseer onto level 5? And also, can he level the Shadowhunter onto level 4? So that we have the level 2 Hex here. That's not quite as important, but yeah. It is going to become interesting now in the late game. Yeah, but here comes EnTe again. And EnTe is down in supply right now. He's actually at 44. It's really the heroes that make his army. And in an ideal world, there would be an attempt of Cash to get additional experience by taking a few camps. But yeah, now he will have to move back. He can't lose too many of the Orc Burrows here. So he's already retreating. Doesn't want to use the town portal here. He doesn't do that either. But yep, there comes the attack straight from the behind. If he can get the 2 statues down quickly, that would already be a massive help for him. And there's the Nova, at least the first one coming through. It's tough to go into an Orc base, but you can definitely poke from the outside if you have a ranged army and try and siege up against it. Cash has now crossed over into the low upkeep, so it's at 54 supply against the 47 that we're seeing for the opponent. And there's the attack against the Pig Lord. Only one Howl actually hits everything. And that Howl starts to hurt. Again, still only on level 1, but we're going to soon see it on level 2, and that's where the problem starts to kick in. There's the level up. Pit Lord on level 3, and that's a Howl of Terror on level 2 any second now. Fiends are getting microed into the background. Yes, we have another Nova straight into the Orc army, but obviously at this point the Shadowhunter gets one healing wave through after another. Still has a charge of the Wand of Mana Stealing and uses against the Lich as we're seeing the Focus Fire hitting those Fiends hard. Cash down to 38 supply though as he loses ground, and EnTe is still at 44. And there's the GG as Cash yields the field of battle and leaves the game. 1-0 lead in the best of 3 series now for EnTe as we are heading into map number 2. Game number 2, Northern Isles is the map as we are heading into the second game of the best of 3 series. And down to the bottom left here at the Endgame Gear Masters, we have Cash in red going up against his undead opponent EnTe. And EnTe was able to take the first map after all. The air army of Cash was just not able to deal with the Howl of Terror and not really able to also deal with those heroes either. So a little bit of an unfortunate setback for Cash, who obviously has the ambition to make it at least to the grand final in this third qualifier so that he can still secure a spot for himself in the playoffs. But as it stands, he still has a chance to come back and take 2 in a row, but it's not going to be easy against EnTe. Even despite the fact that EnTe lost the Lich in the last game, he was still in good shape when it came to the team fight itself and took his opponent down there with a pretty good timing as well. So, yeah, nice pressure. And the early game in particular, I feel, was really what sent EnTe ahead there. The early game was fantastic for him. Stealing a lot of items away, being able to also take down a couple of the of the minions during the creep checks to secure the experience for him too. So yeah, it's definitely one of the setups that worked quite well for him and gave him a bit of a lead there early on. Question is obviously, you know, again, if that Farseer setup that we're seeing for Cash is going to be successful against EnTe in the second game. And the hero choice of an Orc player is always the one thing that you are really curious of. I mean, let's face it, when we're talking about undeads, what are we going to getting? 95% of the time, you are going to be facing off against a Death Knight. very rarely do you see anything else there, depending a lot on the level where you play at. So Death Knight is where it's at, 99% probably. But against an Orc player, Farseer, you can still have the Blade Master in the action, as we could see in the last game, and they actually anticipated Blade Master, but that wasn't the case. So now we have the Farseer built again, and that's one of the reasons why we're having the Acolyte down here. He wants to double check what kind of hero comes out of that Altar of Storms, so that he can deal with that situation immediately. And they're already starting to move down to the bottom of the map to check that out now. So yeah, Gnoll Warden gets attacked here and is going to get dropped. And that's a little bit of experience for both players, since we see similar moves made by the Death Knight up at the top. And this time he can actually creep without having any kind of anxiety about Blade Masters jumping out of Windwalk and starting to take his creeps down, because he's already seen that there is a Farseer against him. And in RTS, this is really what it's all about. You need to make sure that you are getting the information by just scouting. And well, the German Undead player so far doing fairly well. Cash, on the other hand, I mean, again, he is one of the best players that we have in Europe right now. There's absolutely no doubts about that. But if he... Well, the problem for him is that he only participated... This is the only qualifier that he participated in so far. Whereas EnTe, for example, has gathered a couple of points already. He might not have been able to get points in every single one, but he's at 3 in total now. And with the points that he gets through the semi-final, and maybe even him advancing to the next round, he should be secured for the playoffs, for sure. If Cash can pull that off, that would be pretty fantastic for him. If he can go to the grand final, maybe even take it. But at this point, the odds are against him, since EnTe has so far taken the lead in this best-of-3 series. And that's always the risk that you take. If there's multiple qualifiers and you can gather points, but you only participate in the last one, yeah, that always makes things a little bit dicey. Obviously, it's always also a matter of if you can or not. And in the case of someone like Foggy, for example, it doesn't even matter, because he just won both of the qualifiers he participated in, and is definitely qualified, and is also 100% qualified as the #1 seed in the standings there. Yeah, Farseer, for now, is actually nearly reaching level 3. That's not quite there. That's also the Claws of Attack +9. Yeah, nearly getting level 3. That's a bit of experience right now for the taking. And he gets that easy peasy. That could have been microed a little bit better from EnTe now too. Obviously only a small accomplishment, but still. Depends a bit on does that Grunt fall. And with that, we should see him fall, yes. Grunt goes down. Had to sacrifice a bit of mana for it, but there's no problem with that either. Level 3 Farseer now against level 2 Death Knight. And the surround is maybe closed. Nah, the block is there. Yeah, it's one of the major plays, or one of the easiest plays that you can make if you clearly see that an opponent is trying to surround you. You simply use the units that you have with you to surround yourself, and then they block a space free for you that helps you easily to move away again. So, the tag obviously into tier 2 from both players. We have Stronghold nearly reached on the side of Cash. And at the top right, the Necropolis has pretty much been accomplished by EnTe now as well. And his particular setup, this is what we're going to see right now. Down to the bottom of the map, still a bit of creeping going on. Well, first of all, we're seeing the Rubians and the Arachnites taken down by EnTe. But we also have the transition towards the top to try and pull off a similar play by Cash. So he's actually moving away from this a little bit. When we're talking about items, we are still having the Sentry Wards, which is actually going to be a great item for EnTe, so that he has a bit more an idea if there's ever going to be an expansion or what's happening in that main base. Claws of Attack +6 are going to help the Lich, who is now also prioritized over the tech into the Black Citadel. And for the Farseer, we actually get the Talisman of Invasion. Maybe not necessarily the best item in the game there, but definitely an item that is going to keep that bad boy alive a little bit more, especially once that Lich is starting to zoom in on him. There's also, this time, the Tauren Chieftain. So we're going to have the cow in the game instead of the Shadow Hunter. So a little bit more AoE that's going to come out of that. Obviously, items getting stocked up immediately as he's going to try and join the fun here. But that also means that outside of a Stomp, we are going to definitely see a bit more action and also blocks there at that front line. In addition to that, Replenishment Potion. Is he actually missing that? Ah, well, he has still that Sentry Ward over there, so he definitely saw the TC. And I think he also knows where the creep is happening now. Yeah. And that could now become a problem. Great creep check opportunity here for EnTe, thanks to the Sentry Ward that he has. Does he get the experience? Oh, yes, he does. Gets the experience, but the Mana Stone is taken by the Orc. A little bit annoying still for Cash. I mean, this is another one of those examples where you just sit there and you're just really... So he was trying to just like shift the attack pattern a little bit to make it less predictable for the Undead player, but that didn't work. Now we have also an expansion being built, and guys, these sentry wards are currently worth their weight in gold. First of all, the creep check was already great, that gave him extra experience. Now he sees the expansion as it comes. This is absolutely perfect at this point. Absolutely perfect. This is fantastic for him right now. So, well, with that, we're currently also seeing Cash trying to get the scouted out a little bit as well. We're having down at the bottom of the map the attack as Cash is starting to move in against the Gnoll Overseer. Experience again, another coil, and this must be super frustrating, but look at the aura. Yeah, hilarious fruit of accuracy. Now, the one thing that I have to say, it might not be the best item for the composition that Cash plays here. I would say it's probably the shittiest item that he could get for that composition. But just imagine what would have happened if the Undead player had walked away with that aura. Oh boy, that would have been a problem. Now we're having a ground army rushing in with ensnares being used. The one Crypt Fiend is down. And the surround on the Death Knight. That's a TP out immediately. Actually, no. For a second, he's able to keep himself in play there. Yeah, tries to force the TC down, but that didn't quite work. So in this case, there we have it. Death Knight has to TP out, and, well, the Lich didn't die, but is pretty low too, and that's more mana that has now been used from the Death Knight to make sure that he doesn't fall there either. Okay. Down to the bottom of the map. Still nothing happening around the expansion, outside of the fact that EnTe obviously knows it's coming. There's nothing in the main base that would suggest that either. Right now we're just having the attempt from Crash to have a very, very solid base setup here, or army setup, that helps him to force fights whenever he wants to. A couple of raiders in the mix with the ensnare is going to enable him to force creep checks, to force fights, to maybe also slow his opponent down a little bit. But you obviously would love to have some additional experience points on these heroes. A level 4 Farseer definitely helps. That Chain Lightning on level 2 is worth a lot. But in an ideal world, that Warstorm from the Tauren Chieftain would now join that fun as well. And again, we're having a little bit of a hunt happening. Wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, there's a Raider. Would not be surprised if that bad boy is going to be used to lock this down. But no, just moves away. Has another set of healing salves, I think. Actually, I'm lying. He doesn't have any. He needs to rebuy some, and we'll do that now. And with that, we actually are going to have him in a setup where he has a pretty solid army at his disposal. I mean, Cash is at 47 supply. When we're talking about EnTe, then he's currently sitting at 39, so that isn't bad either, but still, he's obviously still trying to get, first of all, his tech completed. He has Destroyers now nearly done with the upgrade. He also needs a couple of additional items, and there's the third hero, which puts EnTe back to 44 supply, and therefore nearly on the same level as Cash. So it's Pit Lord time again. Yeah, that Howl of Terror. He is terrifying. And there's our attack towards the top left, just as the expansion is being attacked. EnTe is honestly having the maddest timings in this game so far. Yeah, but there's the level 2. What's the item? And the Crystal Ball. Goody, 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 goody. The one item that you didn't want there. So, with that said, we're having possibly a town portal. Peons are already getting slaughtered here. Peon abandoned. Orc, Union, Zeus, Cash. I don't know. Probably headline there for tomorrow. But Cash isn't even going in for this one. And yeah, it's just a beauty when you have those. Again, this is just one item that got massive value for EnTe, as I said before. He is in a spot where he had those sentry wards and they were fantastic for him. So now we have a few more items bought. That's the Scroll of Healing right there. Here comes the Town Portal. He's trying to save this, but I think he might have portaled a little bit too late. Maybe not quite. It's Destroyer time, baby! And there's the Howl of Terror. Immediately the War Stomp also coming through from Cash as he's going in for the fight. Trying to get the quick kill in, actually. And, well, that Kodo is already dead, but the Tauren Chieftain is already on level 3. And there's the Chain Lightning rattling through as we still have the Scroll of Healing in the inventory of the Tauren Chieftain. Another Howl of Terror is coming in. 44 supply against 50 right now. Cash is just getting unit after unit in. The Destroyer is definitely a bit of a pain in the ass right now as they are doing the magic damage against all those those heavy armor units. But as we have another chain lightning rattling through the undead army, there's the war storm and the kill! The Death Knight is down, and now he's getting chased. EnTe was going for it. He went for pretty much an all-in on the expansion, and he is losing that fight hard. Death Knight is being bought back. He has the potion of lesser invulnerability, but couldn't use it earlier. And now the Pit Lord is there too. And that's not the only thing that's gonna fall here. We already have the destroyers getting attacked once again. Obviously, they're firing away against the grunts, and they're melting like snow in the sun, as we have EnTe about to lose their Lich. The Lich is down. That's a level 4 on the Torrent Chief, and EnTe realizes that this is game. And we have a third map coming up, ladies and gentlemen, as Cash forces their final map out of EnTe in this semi-final series of the Endgame Gear Masters. Game number 3, everybody. This series is tight. Cash made it happen in game number 2. He cashed in on that ETC, and especially with ETC getting level 3 straight up during the fight, that was a pretty good battle for him at the expansion. Now we're on Concealed Hill, and to the top right we have EnTe spawning in blue again as the Undead. Down to the bottom left of the map, though, it is Cash. And again, it's important for him to win this series. He already reached the semi-final, which is quite the feat here. First tournament for him, first qualifier for him for the Endgame Gear Masters, but he hasn't qualified for those playoffs yet. EnTe, on the other hand, in a good spot no matter what happens here. But obviously he wants to get a higher seeding to have an easier time in the playoffs. For now he has to battle against a teammate, as both of those players are on MTW. Ziggurat gets built here. We have Graveyard opening, Altar of Darkness is in, and well, I guess we don't really have to ask what kind of hero we're going to get from EnTe in the game. At least on the first hero, but what happens around Cash? It's again the Farseer opening for him here. And that ground army process with the Raiders definitely a lot more beneficial for him than the Wind Raider approach game number 1 turned out to be. So can he win 2 in a row? That's the big question here right now. Can he actually take 2 wins in a row? Is he able to pull that off? Yes or no? Towards the top right, on the other hand, well, EnTe, he had a pretty good first game, and especially when it came to his harass, game 2 didn't look bad either. I mean, he was able to multiple times steal away his opponent's experience as he came in with a late death coil and finished the creeps off, so that was fantastic for him. And especially the scouting items that he found with the sentry wards were a huge advantage for him. Seeing the expansion early, knowing exactly about the creep pattern of his opponent, a fact which he abused several times. But at the end of the day, he just didn't have enough during the team fight. It was just fantastic performance there by Cash, and Cash actually really risked the expansion to fall too. He delayed that portal for so long just to get the additional scrolls of healing here and items in general, and then portaled in, took the fight, got the level up for the ETC just in time, chain lightning after chain lightning. And the one thing that EnTe just didn't have was a lot of AoE heal there, which was becoming a big problem. And also, I still have to say that especially the timings that we saw with the War Stomp against the Death Knight as he was attacked was obviously phenomenal. Just pitch perfect, frame perfect, where he was able to get the Death Knight killed for the first time, even though he had a potion of lesser invulnerability. And then, just as he tries to buy it back, the Pit Lord dies too, which was another problem. So, yeah, bit of a problem there for him, and therefore that ended the game. Again, by the way, the coil being used by the Death Knight, so he wants to creep this a little bit faster. Another one of these setups where he's not quite sure what he's going up against here in terms of heroes. I mean, I guess he anticipates the Farseer, but you always have to be a bit careful and try and speed that process up here. So he gets the first death coil through. Also make sure that the mana starts to regenerate, so you will have that back up pretty well. With this, we're having another move down towards the bottom of the map, where we actually see the Farseer starting to creep again, and obviously that Gnoll Overseer is trying to get the poison in now. A little bit of a bait here. This is always just such a nasty little move. I mean, it is really annoying. You bait it over, and then you just trap it completely, and that gives you an easy chance to take the Orcolord down. We have a level 7 creep being attacked and a couple of seconds into the game. And that obviously gives you a great item there as well. Just the isolation here is a fantastic process. And in this case, it works out perfectly for EnTe. And let's see what he's going to get for his troubles. I mean, first of all, he's getting level 2. That's a given. But as an item, we have the Helm of Valor. Alright, Captain America Death Knight. That's what we're going to see right now. That's not a conundrum at all. So, yeah, good experience for him. And by the way, we are going to see a pretty early expansion here for Cash. Yeah, goes down to the bottom, has the PN in play, and look at that. Quick expand for him, and already the Dire Wolves are starting to scout. The problem is the Dire Wolves are not the only thing that's scouting here. If that skeleton makes it through, then it's going to be an EDC reveal on the expansion too. And it definitely will make it there. So, yep, with that said, we're having at the top EnTe still scouting, or, well, getting a bit of experience for himself too. But the scout confirms it. Sees well, actually, okay, yeah, he sees it now. So sees exactly what's going on here. Starts attacking. Wolves. Nice! Round on the wolves there too. But the resummon from the Farseer. No experience for the Wicked. And he's also starting to kill sheeps now on the map. Which is actually something that a lot of races do when they're up against Undead. It limits the options of an Undead player to access corpses that they can use to create a few additional skeletons thanks to the Necro Staff. So with that, we actually have one grunt down. That kind of hurts a little bit, to be honest with you. There's no fiend that has been eliminated yet, but the more you put these units under pressure, the more you can obviously also make sure that the Death Knight is not going to have any mana left. And EnTe is actually eating a ton of damage here. I mean, look at this. This entire setup isn't really too great. Now, obviously, the recovery is increased on Blight, and now he has also the level 2 aura. That Farseer might have gone a little bit too deep for his own liking, but he's still able to turn it around there. So level 3 versus level 3. Level plus 9 attack on the Farseer. But yeah, an expansion is in play. Tech into tier 2 has now been reached. We're also seeing the Beastery, and we have a second hero. We have the TC back to business. So everything is pretty much set up for Cash. He is just sitting there and is just saying like, okay, I need a little bit more cash, so I'm going to buy myself another expansion down here. I'm going to build that real quickly, and once that it's done, I'll finally be able to cash in on that initial expense and have an advantage over my opponent, as I have double the cash as he does. But with that said, we're still having him doing pretty well, also just keeping the Undead at bay. I mean, seriously, he's doing fantastic here. Just moves in again, has the War Storm this time on level 1 for the ETC and for the TC, even though I'm pretty sure that he's going to rock too. And I'm actually a little bit surprised that he didn't use that yet. I feel there were multiple moments where he could have just used the War Storm in the last fight just to put a bit more pressure onto the Death Knight and maybe get even a kill there, but yeah, didn't quite work out that way. Now he's still using that fountain, since it is still night, to make sure that he gets those units healed up pretty easily. And, well, it's tough for EnTe to come down to this. Like, the continuous pressure is a problem. It really is. Yeah, and in this case, he is starting to put the Fiends under even more pressure. The Lich is obviously here now. So that's something, but if you look into the main base for just a second, there's no Orb of Corruption yet. Slaughterhouse is not just now coming in. That would be a good kill, though. If he gets the Raider, that would be fantastic for him. And he is maybe even going to drop a coil for this one. But before he can coil that, he still needs to get a little bit more damage in. There's the heal already coming through. Can he secure the auto attack? That's a bigger question. I mean, honestly, if Cash holds this expansion right now, he is going to be in a fantastic spot. He's already mining from it. And here comes the Death Knight, and EnTe is on 39 supply against 41. It's pretty close on that count. And the heroes are doing fantastic here. So right now, there's a surround attempt again. That's great for EnTe. That's really good for EnTe. That was an important kill right here. And that's expansion, it's do or die. If you lose that expansion, it's pretty much lights out. But then again, there's a coil once more. And he's really stingy on the mana with the TC here. The Tauren Chieftain hasn't used a single stomp yet. Maybelline? No? Still not. Both of them just microing their heart out here at this point. I like a little bit timid too, but it's micro time, and the Kodo Beast is in action now as well. One of the things that EnTe wants to accomplish is that he shuts down the income here, because the longer this fight lasts, the better, of course, for the Orc player. But here we go. It's the final map in this best of 3 series, and the first War Storm doesn't hit jack shit. Like, literally hit nothing. Was completely blocked by the grunts, and that's not really what you want to open up with. So he's starting to make his way in again. Yeah, the Death Knight on the other hand gets pressured, and if the Death Knight falls, that's a problem. Yeah, gobble, 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 and already it is Happy Hippo time for the Kodo. Second Kodo's coming in too. Another Fiend goes down. Guys, this is looking great for Cash. This is looking fantastic for Cash. If he can pressure that Death Knight a little bit more, that would be even better. The Kodo is on the run. And might actually be safe there for a second. Second Kodo has also won. He's not going to be able to break through here, is he? There's Headhunters coming in now as well. He's getting 2 Headhunters in. The Kodos are still on the move back. Obviously, EnTe is determined to take them down so that he can just free the Fiend. But even if he gets that one back, I don't think that's going to change anything. The Lich is down. He takes the Lich down. Guys, it's a disaster for EnTe. He portals out 40 supply against 41. Look at the money that Cash has. He has so much cash right now. 1,400 a second ago. He's still mining here. He has also access to another Burrowed Fiend. If he has a Dust of Appearance here, if he can buy one. And he's just in an insane spot. I mean, we have Beastery. He's getting more units out there. Raiders are joining the fun in the main base. EnTe does still not have a tier 3 tech. EnTe is, I mean, honestly, EnTe at this point is pretty much just on the ground. He's honestly, if he was a boxer, he would be in the corner. He would just be in the ropes and would be just getting pummeled at this point. Having no tier 3 tech at this point, with no Orb of Corruption against an opponent that's running an expansion and is also using a tier 2 army against you, is disastrous. EnTe is also behind in supply. Upgrades are soon going to be there for Cash. Cash is absolutely killing it right now. He used that health fountain early on as well as he could. He took a perfect position on the map, grabbed the early expansion, kept his opponent at bay, bought him time and time again through all of these little moves. And EnTe is in a really bad spot right now. He is gonna have to try for another aggressive move, and that's what we're seeing from him now. He actually gets the creep check done here, but the Red Drake gets taken down from the Nova. Nicely done. Yeah, the Robe of the Magi is in, but that's at least a bit of a win that we're seeing for EnTe, so he gets the experience, and he gets also another Raider, so at least that works for him, but he still doesn't have an Orb of Corruption, he still doesn't have Destroyers, can't deal with that. His hero levels on 3 and 2 aren't too shabby, but compared to what we are seeing on the side of the Orc player, it's also nothing to write home about. They're both on exactly the same level. And here comes the attack. Cash is sitting at 59 supply against the 48, and they go for the Death Knight! Oh my god, if that's a kill! That's a kill! He's down! The Death Knight is down! That has to pretty much be game already. There's the Potion of Invulnerability on the Tower in Chief as he moves in with another War Storm. And we still have that Farseer nearly on level 4. He makes the play for the Lich, but without a Death Coil, this is just a disastrous fight for EnTe. He's trying. He's doing what he can, but this is a pretty much in vain. The GG dropped as Cash takes the series, wins 2 in a row, and advances to the grand final of the Endgame Gear Master Qualifier number 3. GG, and well played.